Warren Treisman was fascinated by the bees he kept in the backyard of his Del Cerro home.
Usually you just watch them and see that the activity is normal and everything's okay.
But a check of the hive in February revealed everything was not normal. He noticed dead bees on the ground. A lot of dead bees.
It's just devastating to see all these bees on the ground dead or dying.
Thousands of dead bees were scattered in the backyard. Occasionally a bee would stumble out of the hive and fall dying to the ground. Treisman doesn't know what wiped out the colony because toxicology tests cost about $1,000 for just a single bee. But the hive was wiped out quickly, and that raised a red flag for UCSD biological sciences researcher James Nye.
If it was something that occurred within 24 hours where suddenly you had hundreds or even thousands of bees dying, it does suggest there was a chemical basis for it.
One widely used pesticide class known as neonicotinoids has been increasingly linked to bee deaths. Large companies like Syngenta and Bayer began selling products like Merit, Venom, and Cruiser in the mid-1990s. They're effective and widely used in agriculture and by consumers.
We have them in our gardens. They're used to treat grass, to treat the plants that we plant in our plant beds. They're in our homes. Some of them are actually used as flea medications for dogs and cats.
Nye says the product can be sprayed on plants, injected into the soil, or even used to treat a seed.
So what you can literally do is put a small amount on a seed, plant the seed, water it, it turns into a big plant, and every cell in that plant has a tiny amount of that pesticide.
That means neonicotinoids live in a neighborhood as long as that plant is alive. And while the dose in each cell is small, thousands of forager bees can pick up the chemical and bring it back to the hive. There, it can accumulate to a critical level.
So now it's the difficult part in which I need to capture her. Okay, so now I have the bee here.
Simona Tossi has worked with Nye to document what the insecticide does to bees. Tossi glued a plastic tube onto a bee's back so he can put the insect on a special harness.
And then I put the bee in a flight mail. And when this happens, it starts flying.
That little bee velodrome looks a bit like a round hat box, and it allows researchers to measure speed, strength, and endurance while controlling the rest of the environment.
Because bees can visit very wide areas around the colony, and you don't know where is she going, what is she feeding on, and basically a colony can visit millions of flowers per day.
Tossi says the neonicotinoids are less toxic to bees than what came before, but he says there are still significant sublethal effects. The insecticides can impair flying and hurt the bee's ability to find the hive. It can also accumulate to toxic levels inside a colony.
Pesticides do not discriminate between a good or a bad insect. So they would kill the bad insects, the pests, but they would also kill the bees or cause negative effects on bees, because also bees eat parts of the plant.
The California Department of Pesticides began reviewing the insecticide in 2009 after getting a number of reports linked to ornamental plants.
Does it really affect bees, or does it really affect pollinators, is what the question that we raised.
Mary Lou Verter Carlos is the Chief Science Advisor and Assistant Director for the Department of Pesticide Regulation. Regulators worked with industry and agriculture to determine if usage rules need to be changed.
We're thinking maybe reduce the amount of pesticides that can be used at certain times. Of course, they still have to be effective, even if you reduce the rates. And then it could be that they will be strictly applied only at nighttime, will not be applied during bloom at all.
State officials will conclude their review of neonicotinoids this summer, more than a decade after deciding that there were enough concerns about these insecticides to look closely at how they're used. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.